In a perfect world, I'd like to see a whole new squeaky clean Conservative Party. And I'd like to see it led by Boris because he has unfinished business and because he was treated appallingly.
The Tory donor, Lady Judith McAlpine, recently organised a meeting of 50 Tory MPs where the prospect of replacing Rishi Sunak with Boris Johnson was discussed. And she joins me now. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
First of all, your reaction to the news that Lee Anderson has joined Reform UK?
I'm not surprised. The way he's been treated by the Conservative Party is ridiculous. So what's the alternative for him?
And what impact will this have on the Conservative Party? Do you think more will follow him?
I wouldn't be surprised. Seriously. I just think the whole thing's a mess. And if they were trying to get rid of good people, they're beginning to succeed very well.
So tell us then about your plan. What would you like to see happen?
In a perfect world, I'd like to see a whole new squeaky clean Conservative Party. And I'd like to see it led by Boris because he has unfinished business and because he was treated appallingly. And that's it. Because if we went back to proper old-fashioned Conservative values, we'd actually get stuff done.
You talked about a whole new squeaky clean Conservative Party. Can you have a whole new squeaky clean Conservative Party with Boris Johnson at the helm?
Absolutely, yes, because you may not like him, but I think
I didn't say anything about him. I just asked if you
No,
thought
no,
he could...
I know, but every time anybody asks that question, I feel it's loaded. As far as I'm concerned, he has the charisma to actually pull everybody together. We've seen that once. We know he's got an incredible brain. Yeah, okay, there are other people with similarly good brains, but Boris has the ability to actually pull people together, and we need this. I've just been writing a piece about what life was like immediately after the war, and I can't help feeling that's where we are now again, for some reason. I mean, maybe just because it was post-COVID, and post-COVID we somehow didn't we didn't get ourselves back to normal. We didn't start fighting for normality again because the government was too busy trying to get rid of Boris and fighting amongst themselves. And we've lost such valuable time.
So tell me then about this meeting of more than 50 Tory MPs and peers talking through polling that you'd funded, looking at trying to replace Rishi Sunak. Tell us about the conversation there. How did it go?
It wasn't actually about trying to replace Rishi Sunak, but I do think we need to. I was just curious. I wanted to know what people really thought, what people wanted. And it was a big poll. And what came out of it very loud and clear is that if candidate X was Boris, which it clearly was fairly well based on, then even Labour voters would vote for Boris. And therefore, we might get something done. That's all I'm interested in. But we know that, I mean, people laugh when I say, have you read Nadine Dorries' book, The Plot? And so many MPs and ministers have said, no, hang on, I'm being attacked by a dog, who have said, it's a load of rubbish. And then you find they haven't actually read it. So how the hell do they know? But my point is that if it were a load of rubbish, the people named in that book would have had her in court by now, and they haven't, because it's true. I've been watching the party for the last, it was 2010, I started to think there was something smelly. And there's something rotten at the core of the Conservative Party, and we need to just get rid of it. And the only way to get rid of it is, I think, wipe the slate clean and start again.
But I suppose some people would agree with the first part of that sentence. Others will wonder whether or not you think Boris Johnson's the right man to wipe it clean, given what happened with Partygate when he was Prime Minister, given what happened with Chris Pincher.
I really believe that man, he was busy trying to run the country. He wasn't out partying. I know he wasn't out partying. And as for the legendary birthday cake, I gather that it was put on the table in front of him in a box. He was on the phone. Somebody said happy birthday, took the cake out. He never even saw the cake, let alone had any of it.
I know, but
And
to be fair, other people have seen pictures of him holding glasses of wine at parties. People who were
oh, you
working in
are
his
allowed
Downing
to
Street.
hold a glass of wine at a party if
Not,
you're working
not
in
yet. No, you weren't during the pandemic. Let me just say, make
Yes, you
this
were.
point
If
here.
you were working with people, nose to tail, in number 10, in those little rooms in number 10, and you're sitting there, you can't work from home, and you're trying to run the country. And if you can't have a drink in the fresh air with the people you've been staring at and breathing on all day, then there's something seriously wrong with us.
Well, I would make the point to you that you couldn't do that because of rules drawn up by Boris Johnson. And plenty of other people listening to this, I went to several leaving parties during exactly that period, and they were all on Zoom, and I drank a glass of wine on my own home and didn't do all of that. I wanted to make the point to you. If you look at any of the polling on Boris Johnson, by the time he left office, 68% of people said he was doing badly. 76% of people said he was untrustworthy. 52% of people still say they dislike him. How can he be the whole new squeaky clean Conservative Party?
Well, I'm sorry, we all have different views, but I know enough people who say, God, they treated him appallingly. We know he was set up. We know there were so many lies told, and they weren't told by Boris. I mean, he may be quite often, how can I say, he thinks outside the box, and he will do things that are unpredictable. But he's not a liar. He's not untrustworthy. Oddly enough, I just think he's good. I think he would be good for the country, and I'm not the only person who thinks it. As I say, I've been ever since they did what they did to him. I've been saying this was ludicrous, and we shouldn't, we shouldn't put up with it, because we, the public, are being manipulated by a very small number of people. Sorry, that's a puppy. We haven't really had the chance to make our own decisions. The decisions have been made for us.
In December,
In
December, YouGov asked, "Do you have a favourable or unfavourable opinion of Boris Johnson?" 6% of people had a very favourable opinion. So I take your point. You're very favourable towards him, and there are other people you know who are the same. 45% were unfavourable. 18% were somewhat unfavourable. He's not popular.
Well, that's your opinion.
No, it's not my opinion. I'm reading from an independent poll by YouGov.
Yes, I know, but it's really interesting, isn't it? The different polls bring up different results.
No, they don't. Across the board, the polling. When you polled the question of bringing back Boris Johnson, did you put his name in the question of
Yes,
what?
we did.
And you found what?
As I said, we found even Labour voters would vote if Boris was back.
And have you discussed it with him?
Yes.
And is he keen?
I think so.
He wants to come back.
I think so. I think he feels he has unfinished business.
And does he want a seat before the next election?
Well, it's fairly obvious that if he's going to get a seat before the next election, the people currently in charge of the Conservative Party aren't going to let him stand as a Conservative. I think he needs to stand as an independent. But, Boris is Boris. He'll do what he wants.
Have you discussed that with him? Is he looking at standing as an independent?
I don't know what Boris is thinking. Really, really. I genuinely don't. He's been so busy finishing a book that he's been on a deadline with. I've no idea.
Okay, we'll wait and see. So on a scale of 1 to 10, then, what do you think the chances are that Boris Johnson will lead the Conservatives into the election?
I'd probably go for 6.
Okay, 6 out of 10 is not bad. Judith McAlpine, Lady McAlpine, thanks so much for joining us today.